Hello and welcome back to another episode of Real with Ryan. This episode is going to be another episode where I dive into chatgpt. I've made a few previous episodes, so you can check those above or in the description below. I am really excited for this episode because I'm going to test both my limits as well as the limits for chatgpt. In this episode, what I want to do is have chatgpt write the code to build out an entire website for me. Now, I have a little bit of past experience with writing code, as I did have a high school computer programming class, and I also went through a coding boot camp in 2020. But it has been at least 2 years since I've written even one line of code, and to be honest, I've kind of forgotten most of the skills. But what I'm hoping for is that I can use handwritten prompts through ChatGPT to ask for all the different code segments that can be used to generate a website. I'm super excited to push both the limits of ChatGPT, but also the limits of myself as far as coding goes, and see if using the help of ChatGPT, I can actually code and develop my very own website. If you have a moment, it would mean a lot to me if you could hit that subscribe button, and this will date the channel and video, but I'm almost to 1,000 subscribers, so a subscription would mean the world to me. But without further ado, let's hop into the video. Okay, so jumping right on into the video, my goal here is to create a website, even though it might be basic, using code generated from ChatGPT. Like I said, I have a little bit of past coding experience, so I know how to set up things like files in VS Code and a few basic coding premises, but I definitely am not a practiced programmer. So here on the screen, I have gone ahead and set up 3 different files within VS Code. One is a JavaScript file, one an HTML file, and one a CSS file. It may or may have not taken me an embarrassing amount of time to figure out how to do this again. So for those of you out there who know what this is, you're going to be laughing at me for how simple it is. And then I'm guessing that most other people watching this don't really know what this means, and that is okay. I've also set up a test server to make sure everything works so we can see hello world, which is more or less the extent to which I know how to code. But this is where I'm hoping ChatGPT can step in and help me out. Okay, now that I've tried the avenue for asking it for all the requirements up front, and it basically told me to go use WordPress, I'm going to start breaking this down into a few smaller chunks. And let's just start with the basics here. So I'm giving it the prompt, here's the following boilerplate code from an HTML file, and then copy and pasting all that boilerplate code that we had here. Now I'm saying, can you generate the HTML code that can be used to make a homepage for a mountain bike tour website? And I'm just going to start at that component and see what we can start to cobble together. All right, that seems like it did a lot better at actually generating some HTML here. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is copy and paste this into VS Code and see what we get over. We've got a super simple website here that is for mountain bike tours. So experience the thrill of mountain biking as the header statement, a why choose us section, a couple buttons up here that of course don't go anywhere because we only have HTML, a book now button that doesn't work. This is awesome though. This is a step in the right direction. We have a really crappy website that we can start to add things onto and make it look a lot better. Now it is time to make this basic and boring website look a little bit better, and we're going to do that with CSS. So I'm telling ChatGPT, this is great. Can you create CSS code that can run in a CSS file that will make this website look much nicer? Okay, and it looks like it went through and made a good amount of CSS. So I'm just gonna go ahead and copy this and paste it over into the CSS file and see what it comes out with. Now this is going to be where some of the roadblocks start to happen and where we're gonna have to do some figuring out. So I went in through this code into the CSS file, and it's coming up with a few errors and highlighting some of these errors here that is preventing this page from updating. Now this is where it's either going to be on my shoulders to figure out what these errors are or to try to use ChatGPT to resolve some of these errors. So I think I'm going to try that now. To start resolving this code, what I did is say, hey, when I paste this code into the CSS file, it's giving me an error. I listed out that error, and I asked if it could resolve a solution, and then I gave the snippet of code that's generating that error, and it came back with 2 different answers and kind of the explanation around that. I went ahead and used this first one. So I put an HTML in front of this in the code, and it did in fact get rid of the error, but what it didn't do was update and stylize my website. So I'm thinking there's an issue with hooking the CSS page up to the HTML, and I need to figure out how to resolve that. So I said, this resolved the error in the CSS file, but is there anything I need to add to the HTML file to connect the CSS file? To which there most definitely is, and it gave me what I needed to do with the ability to copy and paste that, and also gave me an example of how I needed to replace that file path, and gave me a finished look at what that head section would look like. So after going in and adding this link in here, I was able to get the website to open up and make those changes. And now this is, a decent looking website. We've got a blue button. We've got a header section. This is looking honestly pretty good off the rip. I'm really pleased with how far I've gotten in just about 20 to 30 minutes, considering I haven't wrote a line of code in over 2 years and never really got past the beginner level. But now that we've gotten to this stage, I think it's ready for the next step where we can start to play with making these buttons functional. Now what I've gone ahead and done is ask ChatGPT to help me start working on a contact form page. So if I go here, none of these buttons work, but I have created, and you can't see the URL here. If I go to contact.url, it will pull up this super simple contact page. And I've actually, been able to hook up the JavaScript to work with this a little bit. So I can submit the form, and it will tell me to use, an @ for the email, etc. It will tell me to fill out this field, and if everything's working, then it will submit. So I'm gonna make this look better, and then try to hook it up to the main homepage so I can click on buttons and get here. Okay, so we're making some decent progress. I have a contact form, and so here's the contact form, and you can select a date, so that's really exciting. Fill out the form, etc. Nothing happens when you submit it. And one thing I'll say is here is where, not just anyone off the street is going to be able to write code with ChatGPT. So what I want to do is I have this page, and I'm running into an issue where I really want to center this form on the page. Now, over on ChatGPT, I have asked it to center this page a handful of different times and telling it, this isn't working, etc. Can you generate new code? And I just haven't been able to find a solution through ChatGPT that has worked. So I've tried a handful of different iterations, can't quite get it to work. And this is where being able to understand code and having practice code and being a developer, you're going to be able to look at this and say, oh yeah, there's things happening here that you understand and can fix. I just don't have that knowledge. So while I do have a form and a site that doesn't look too bad, whenever it comes to making tweaks and changes, I don't have that knowledge and skill level to actually make those changes. So that is one thing I'm going to run in. I'll be honest, I didn't record every single prompt because I did end up using a lot. But I did ask it to come up with the JavaScript to help me with button clicks, form submissions, and things like that. And I've been able to link up this website. So now I have this website. It's looking pretty decent. Of course, it's not perfect, but for my coding skill level, I'm really pleased with how this looks. If I come down here and click the Book Now button, it takes us over to the contact page. You can put in contact information. If you try to submit it early, it will give you some warnings and things like that. You can also come back to the home page, and you can click the contact page and go here, go back to the home page, Book Now, etc. So it is very straightforward, a very minimal website. There is a lot that can be done to this website that would take a lot of time, but I'm going to call it there. Like I said at the beginning of this, I have taken a coding class in high school, and I did go through a coding boot camp. But this was a super exciting experiment, and it kind of demonstrated to me just how much ChatGPT can be used to assist in the writing and development of code. Like I mentioned, I think it's going to be really tough for most people without any coding experience at all to start to get things off of the ground, because I did have to rely on some of my past knowledge for what questions and prompts did I have to ask, what type of files did I need, and how to even phrase the things that I need in order to get the website off the ground. And even with that, if you take a look at the website, it is completely rudimentary and it needs a ton more work. But honestly, it's just about the best website I have personally built, and it only took around an hour or two of time. But if you like this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up, comment down below what you thought of ChatGPT's ability to code. I'd love it if you'd consider subscribing to my channel. If you want to see more videos like this, just let me know down below. I'm considering continuing on this website and trying to see if I can use ChatGPT alongside my own coding and development knowledge to try to get this website off the ground and live on the internet, as well as make sure it looks like a perfect, well-rounded project and website. But other than that, thank you so much for watching, and thank you for keeping it real with Ryan.